My name is Charlotte, and this is Psycharisma. And today's short talk is titled, Women Are Dirty. Now, before anyone gets the wrong idea, I don't mean women are physically dirty. I'm talking about something deeper. Women's minds are full of dirty, dark, and twisted desires, just like men's. The difference is that men have always had a reputation for it. Society has long accepted, and even joked about, the idea that men think about sex, power, and taboo things constantly. Girls, on the other hand, are still presumed to be made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Sweet, pure, innocent. I'm here to tell you that's far from the truth. Women have the same complex, intense, and sometimes very dark inner worlds as men do. We've just been better at hiding it, or society has been better at pretending it doesn't exist. And here's what catches most men off guard. You genuinely cannot read that hidden side by looking at the polished one. The sweetest, most put-together woman you know might be carrying desires that would surprise you completely. Not because she's hiding something shameful, but because the world never really gave women permission to say these things out loud, so they learned to keep them tucked away where it's safe. Today, I'm taking you into that private world. What women actually crave underneath the surface, the things they feel but rarely admit, and why understanding this changes the way you connect with them entirely. Some of this you've probably sensed without ever having words for it. If this is useful to you, tap that like button. It genuinely helps the channel. And tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Let's get into it. The two selves every woman carries. Let's start with something most men never fully grasp, and it changes how you see everything that comes after. Every woman is, in a sense, carrying two selves at once. There's the one she shows the world, the one who's responsible, agreeable, easy to be around, the one who answers emails and laughs at the right moments and keeps it all together. And then there's the one that only comes out in her most private moments, the part of her that thinks and wants and feels things she'd never broadcast. Both are completely real. They just live in different rooms inside her. And here's the part that trips men up. You cannot read the second self by studying the first. The composed, gentle woman at the front desk might have an inner world that runs far deeper and far wilder than her surface ever lets on. The quiet one, the proper one, the one everyone calls sweet. That word tells you almost nothing about what's actually moving underneath. People assume the calm exterior means a calm interior, and they're often completely wrong. Picture a woman everyone describes as the most level-headed person they know, measured, soft-spoken, the last person you'd ever call intense. But get her alone, in a moment where she actually feels safe enough to be honest, and you start to see a whole other person. Someone with strong opinions she swallows in public, longings she's never said aloud, a depth of feeling that doesn't match the polite face she wears all day. That second woman was there the whole time. You just never had access to her. This matters because so much of what we're going to talk about lives in that hidden room, the desires, the cravings, the quiet pulls she keeps to herself. None of it shows up on the surface, which is exactly why most men miss it entirely. They take the public version at face value and assume that's all there is. But the real woman, the one worth genuinely knowing, is the one she only lets out when she trusts you enough to open that second door. She wants intensity, and not just niceness. Being nice is not the same as being compelling. And a woman can appreciate a kind, decent, agreeable man, genuinely value him as a person, while feeling almost nothing pulling her toward him. It's not that she wants to be treated badly. It's that pleasant doesn't move anything in her. What moves her is intensity, depth. A man who makes her feel something rather than just feel comfortable. This is the part that frustrates so many guys who've done everything right and still got passed over. They were thoughtful, considerate, available, easy. And they watched a woman choose someone with more edge, more conviction, more of a pulse to him, and walked away convinced women just don't want a good man. But that's the wrong lesson. She doesn't want a worse man. She wants a man with more aliveness in him. Someone whose presence has weight. Someone who isn't bending himself into whatever shape he thinks will please her. Think about a guy who agrees with everything she says, never pushes back, always available, always accommodating, forever asking what she'd like instead of ever just having a take of his own. On paper, he's doing everything to win her over, but there's nothing for her to feel. No friction, no spark, no sense of a real person underneath. Now picture a man who's just as kind, but has actual opinions, actual passion, a life he's genuinely invested in, and who's willing to disagree with her without flinching. She feels that immediately. There's something there to push against, something real to be drawn toward. That's the craving most women won't put into words, partly because it sounds ungrateful to say out loud. She doesn't want cruelty. She wants intensity. She wants to feel the current of an actual person, not the careful flatness of a man trying not to make any waves. Niceness without depth registers as nothing. Kindness with fire, that's the thing that quietly lights her up. 3. The pull toward the man. She has to reach. There's a particular kind of man women are drawn to that they almost never admit to wanting, and it has nothing to do with him being unavailable or playing games. It's the man who isn't wide open from the very first day, the one who's a little guarded, a little self-contained, who holds something back, not out of coldness, but because he genuinely has a world of his own that she has to earn her way into. There's something about a man she has to reach that pulls at her in a way the completely open book never does. It's the difference between a door that's already swinging open and one she has to find the key to. The man who hands her everything immediately, all his attention, all his feelings, his whole self laid bare by the second date, leaves nothing for her to discover. There's no journey in it. But the man who's warm yet self-possessed, who lets her in gradually, who has depths she senses but hasn't fully mapped, he gives her something to move toward. And that movement, that slow earning of access, is genuinely thrilling to her, even if she'd never call it that. Picture two men a woman meets in the same week. The first tells her everything about himself in the first hour, declares how much he likes her almost immediately, makes himself completely available. The second is just as interested but doesn't rush it. He's got his own life, his own steadiness, and he lets her discover him piece by piece. Almost every time, it's the second man she finds herself thinking about later. Not because he's cold, because there's still something there to uncover. What she's drawn to isn't mystery for its own sake. It's the feeling of a man who's whole on his own, who isn't desperate to be possessed, who makes her feel like being let into his world is something she's earning rather than something she was simply handed. That sense of reaching towards someone worth reaching for is one of the quietest, most powerful pulls there is. 4. The desire to surrender and why she hides it. A lot of women carry a deep, quiet craving to let go, to not be in charge for once, to feel led by a man steady enough that she can finally set down the weight of always being the one holding everything together. After a lifetime of being responsible, capable, the one who manages and organizes and keeps it all running, there's a real longing to just surrender to someone she trusts and stop carrying it all by herself for a moment. And here's why she buries it. We live in a time that tells women, constantly, that they should be strong, independent, in control, never needing anyone. And there's truth and good in that. But it leaves almost no room to admit that part of her also longs for the opposite, to soften, to yield, to be taken care of and led rather than always leading. Saying that out loud can feel like a betrayal of everything she's supposed to be. So she keeps it locked away, sometimes so deep that even she doesn't fully understand it. Picture a woman who runs everything in her life, her career, her household, her family's schedule, everyone's problems land on her desk. To the world, she's the picture of capability, the one who never needs help. But somewhere underneath, she's exhausted by it. What she secretly aches for isn't more control. It's a man strong and steady enough that for once she can let her guard all the way down and just be held by the situation instead of running it. To feel safe enough to stop performing strength. That's the desire she'll almost never name, because naming it feels like weakness in a world that prizes her toughness. But it's there, and it's deeply human. The man who can give her a sense of genuine safety, the kind that lets her finally exhale, reaches something in her that no amount of charm ever could. Why getting what she wanted can cool her off. Here's where it gets genuinely strange, and it's a trap a lot of men fall into without ever understanding what happened. Sometimes a woman pursues exactly what she wants, pours herself into reaching a guarded man, winning him over, getting him to fully open up and soften toward her, and the moment she completely succeeds, the spark quietly dims. She got what she was chasing, and somehow that's the very thing that cooled her off. It makes no sense on the surface, and it leaves men reeling. The reason is this. Part of what drew her in was the reaching itself, the tension, the challenge, the sense of a man who was whole on his own and not entirely hers yet. When she finally tames all of that, when he becomes completely open, completely available, completely centered on her with nothing left to earn, she may have won, but in winning, she's dissolved the exact thing that pulled her in. The current goes flat. She conquered the mountain, and now there's nothing left to climb. Picture a man who starts out grounded and self-possessed, with his own life and his own pull. She's magnetized by it. Over time, she draws closer, and he opens up more and more, until eventually he's reorganized his whole world around her, given up his own center, made her the entire point of his existence. And right around the time he's most won, she starts feeling oddly less drawn to him. He became everything she thought she wanted, and somehow that emptied it out. Here's the actual lesson in this, and it's not a sad one. It's not that she wants to be perpetually denied. It's that a man should never fully dissolve himself into a relationship. The depth, the self-possession, the life of your own that made you compelling in the first place, those aren't things you surrender once you've won. They're things you keep. A man who stays genuinely himself, even while deeply loving her, keeps the very current alive that drew her in. You don't have to play hard to get. You just have to stay a whole person. So if all of this lives inside her, why does almost none of it ever come out? Why do so many women carry these wants in silence, sometimes for their whole lives? The answer is that the world never really gave them a safe place to say it. From the time they're young, women are handed a very specific picture of what they're supposed to be: gentle, agreeable, sweet, made of nothing but the soft and the pleasant. Anything that doesn't fit that picture gets quietly tucked away because admitting it risks judgment, embarrassment, or worse. And here's the thing about desires. They don't disappear just because you refuse to look at them. They don't dissolve because society decided they're inconvenient. They go underground. They get pushed down into a private space where they keep living, often hidden even from the woman herself. She might not fully understand her own pulls because she was never given the language or the permission to examine them honestly. They just surface in quiet ways she can't quite explain. This is exactly why so many women retreat into private worlds to feel what they can't say out loud. Notice what dominates the books women love, the stories full of intensity, of being pursued, of surrendering to someone powerful, of the guarded man finally undone. That's not random. Those stories are a safe place to feel things the real world gives them no room to express. The imagination becomes the one space where the hidden self gets to breathe without being judged. Picture a woman who, in her actual life, would never say any of this aloud, who'd be mortified to admit half of it. But alone, in the stories she loses herself in, she's drawn straight to exactly these themes over and over. That pull is the buried part of her quietly reaching for air. It tells you the desire was always there. It just had nowhere acceptable to go, so it went somewhere private instead. So here's where I'll leave you. None of this is meant to make a woman's inner world sound like something strange or something to use against her. It's the opposite, really. That hidden part of her, the cravings she can't quite say, the wants she keeps tucked away, it's not shameful and it's not a weapon. It's just deeply, ordinarily human. Men have their own hidden rooms too. We all do. The only difference is that women have spent a lifetime being told to keep theirs locked, so most of them got very good at hiding it. And understanding that doesn't make you a player or a manipulator. It makes you someone who actually gets it, who sees past the polite surface to the real person underneath, and knows how to meet her there. That's not a trick. That's the foundation of genuine connection, the kind most people never reach because they never get past the version everyone else sees. So take it gently. The next time you sense there's more to a woman than the composed face she's showing the world, trust that. There almost always is. The man who creates enough safety and brings enough realness for her to open that second door. He gets to know a person almost no one else does. And that's rarer and worth far more than anything on the surface. If this gave you something to think about, tap that like button. It genuinely helps the channel. Subscribe if you want more honest conversations like this one. And tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from and which part hit closest to home for you. The comments on this one are going to be worth reading.